that when I need to talk politics, I'll call him, and I'm saying it respectively. I only think that even this is also very important, and to have a Kenya. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, and Moses is still around. I know your job is not threatened in any ways. We are still in staff. That's right. So I'll be glad to also talk about that in the fullness of time. The other thing about Miriam, I'm sorry, Millicent KBC. There are many things she asked about. Yes, I talked about one thing we did. What about the many others that are challenges that needs to be done? Of course, there are many. There are many, many, many things that we are work in progress for us as a country. And referencing to the position I was serving, the issue of public debt is a major challenge. The issue of stored projects is a major challenge. So there are many things that are work in progress. There are other very important things like confirmation of other people who work for government, like the UNHC staff. We had allocated some money before, but there is still some work to be done in terms of more allocation. And so that even those brothers and sisters can also have a chance to be compensated for the service they offer our country. And the other one, you've talked about public participation. I agree. Kenya is a robust country in terms of hearing your voice, but there is also work to be done in terms of incorporating all citizens, and especially in allocation of resources. There are things that I don't know whether there is an end to it. One of those things is public participation, because it's a continuous process. It has to keep on improving. It has to keep on done better, because there is no perfection to it, but we can always polish it and do it. You can take another round. Let's talk.
That is what as the chair of the budget. My name is Ndindi Nyoro. If you continue serving as the budget chair, will you allocate in the 2025-2026 financial year 72 billion shillings for Chapati?
Let me answer those two, because I want to be precise. And I don't know whether you're asking about we offer that in our district football. Is it a hard question for a national? Since I am not here now, let me not hypothesize on how deep I was one now. But ulisikia hiyo story ya Reto? So you want to box me in a corner. I'll answer you that in camera. Because I also don't want to deflect from this. It's a good question, but I also don't want to wonder so far. I'll give you that answer. And I'll also give you a calculator so that you give calculations. Daniel from Data Trades regrets what he could have done better. As I said when I was answering Millicent, budget making as it is in management of leadership is always work in progress. There is no perfection to it. That's why even the most developed countries keep on having new leaders. Otherwise, they could have finished the work and say, sasa tumemaliza, there are no more leaders to be needed. So there is always working, it's always work in progress to reach where we are headed. You also asked about the regrets. What I believe myself is that I am the sum total of all my experiences, bad and good. And if I want to remove any bad experience from my CV, that is, as a human being, then I am starting to be who I am. Therefore, very rarely will I have regrets. What I'll have are lessons to do things better. Not about only doing, to treat people better. And if at some point you feel that you've been wronged, I always believe it's an opportunity for you to know how to treat people better when you are at a vantage point. And therefore, no matter. Yes, sir, my brother.
My name is Mike from TV 47. Now, kwa vile kuna masuala kadhaa umeguzia pale kuhusiana na uhusiano wako na wakazi wako wa Kiharu, kwamba ulichaguliwa moja kwa moja kwa sababu haukuwa na vibango vile kuboeka Kiharu. Vile vile ukasema kwamba hakuna yeyote aliyekupigia simu kuhusiana na kazi yako na uhusiano wako wa kikazi nao. Labda uhusiano wako na Rais William Ruto umekuwa vipi hivi karibuni, na labda kabla ya kubanduliwa afisini kwa aliyekuwa naibu rais, uhusiano wako na Rais William Ruto ni upi hadi kufikia sasa? Je, amesema na wewe muda wote ule? Umesema na aliyekuwa naibu rais popote kule? Na uhusiano wako vile vile na aliyekuwa naibu rais ni upi hadi kufikia sasa? Asante.
Mheshimiwa, swali langu ni, jina langu ni Ronnie Regan kutoka idhaa ya Mo Radio, na swali langu kwako ni Ronnie Regan kutoka idhaa ya Mo Radio. Swali langu kwako ni kuhusiana na utendakazi na uchapaji kazi wako katika eneo bunge la Kiharu. Binafsi tulitembea huko na tukafanya taarifa kuhusiana na kuimarisha elimu, na ndio maana tukaipatia makala ya elimu bora na si bora elimu. Hivi sasa umeng'atuliwa na kuondolewa katika wadhifa ambao umekuwa unashikilia, na hizi tetesi ambazo zimekuwa zikisemekana na viongozi kwamba mgao wako ulielekezwa katika eneo bunge lako, kwa sasa hivi umeondolewa. Je, ujenzi wa shule utaendelea, madarasa yataendelea, kabro zitaendelea na wanafunzi wataendelea kula, au sasa bajeti vile vile itakuwa imefinywa, huna uwezo zaidi?
The reason you see me answering chache so that I don't also get lost. Let me answer the two very specifically. Mike, you asked about the relationship with our leaders. The position I held is a consultative position in terms of, before a decision is made, there has to be a lot of consultation. But as I said before, because I also don't want to discuss personalities today, the position or the answer I gave before, I think it answers many things. That I have not had any conversation directly or on phone with any leader of our coalition in regards to the position I used to hold. And I think look at it, it answers many things also, which I also don't want to go into. In terms of the relationship with other leaders, I respect everyone. I mean, I'm one of those people who believe there's no person who becomes a leader by just being fetched from wherever. There is always a process they go through. Because I am one, I know. And therefore, in terms of reverse, the relationship between the president and the former deputy president, the position I hold is that I respect every leader. And I could have things I need to talk about. I could have reservations on decisions made. but I don't think it has been within my role to to talk about those things, especially in public. The other thing in that question is that maybe for clarity's sake, the last discussion I had with the president, the last political discussion, either a chat or a discussion as it were, was before October last year. And I would not want, and you permit me to do that, not to discuss any further about any leader, because as you're all aware, I stopped serving in my position. It's barely a week. I also need to understand many things before I talk, because I believe as a leader, I mean, I lead people. There are people who look up to us as leaders. And therefore, even when you see that I am not answering some questions, it's not because I can't answer them. I believe you have covered me previously, and you know for sure that, respectively, in this world, I only fear God. So whatever I need to say, I have no reservation of saying it. But also, we are given wisdom to say when to say, how to say it. And I believe we are here in Kenya, we'll keep interacting. If there is more to be said, if there is more to be clarified, we are around. Ronnie, he has been to Kiharu, by the way, to cover maji ya dini kidogo. Ukiuliza swali kwa ikuwe sawa. Ronnie, you've been to Kiharu, and I am grateful. And by the way, I want to request anyone who would want to come to Kiharu to look at what you've been doing. We are more than glad to host you. We don't do these things, especially of hosting people, because we want to grow our own campus. We do these things because I am convinced that if leaders started competing on the basis of what they are doing, it would become better. If our competition as leaders is deliverables, and we compete about who is doing what in terms of tangibles and development, it's a very good discussion that we have as MPs, for example, because we hold CDF, and that is the reason why we would be glad even to host it. We have hosted, I think, 4 delegations of my colleagues in Kiharu on benchmarking exercises. We actually don't call them benchmarking. We call them peer-to-peer learning, because I also learn from them. I am not a non-knowing, and I also learn from my colleagues at great deal. And in terms of, like the video you see around, me wearing some goldish shirt, I'm sure you have seen it. That was on 4th of January last year. It is not a recent, video. And we have been doing those things primarily because I think at some point I was not doing the right thing, and at some point I learned. And therefore I feel that if I share my experiences with anyone, and I also learn from them, the management of public resources becomes better. If Kiharu improves, any other Mvita improves, if Ebakasi East improves, if any other constituency improves, then Kenya holistically becomes a better place. And I want to underline, the leaders who come to Kiharu, they don't come to learn because I am all-knowing and I know everything. I also learn from them. And that is why I also go to their constituencies to learn what they do. And I also know majority are trying their best. Specifically to answer you now, is that the project you saw in Kiharu, majority of it that we have done in our learning institutions, I actually did in my first term. In my first term, I was a member of a committee called Regional Integration. I think I have answered. So I'll still call you next year. I hope we'll still be doing better.
Yes. Majibu Kisao from 324. Kuna swali mwenzangu alikuwa ameuliza kuhusiana na wale wabunge ambao walikuwa wanapigeni kwa labda kuingizia pesa kuwatumikia wakazi wa Kiharo. Labda utawaambia nini? Tena nimeweza kuuliza, alafu waibie siri, sababu si mara moja si mara mbili umeteuliwa kama mbunge bora.
Mheshimiwa, I know you are doing campaign during at 2022 and you have given Kenya a lot of promise. For now, Adam Ibrahim from KBC. For now, for the 2.5 years now we are there, where do you rate in terms of development across the country? Because we are sharing that that committee. In that terms of development, and you know the promise that you have given Kenya, where do you rate this administration in the last 2.5 years? Have they achieved their goal? Have they achieved their promise in the last 2 years? Where do you rate?
Let me answer those two. I'll now try to be brief. One, Majibu. Maswali yani yanauliza swali. Majibu, my brother from Nation254. You asked about Kiharo. I am always available to share Kiharo. More than available. I mean, I have had sessions with my colleagues, and I have explained to them basically what we do is optimization, labor-based implementation of projects. It saves us the profit that would have been made by the contractor. It also saves us a lot of cost. It guarantees quality also. And because it's something that needs a lot of time to explain, I am sure I'll give you some time. Yes. Ameuliza pia wale wabunge walisema mambo bungeni last week, nitasema nini? Nitasema uniruhusu niseme kwa kimombo. As I said before, politics is up and downs. And politics is mutually exclusive. Because the things we chase for are the same. So sometimes, for a position to be created, one person has to forego the others. And therefore, it's always a chase. So, you also have to define yourself as a leader, the things you want to engage in. And respectively, as I say so, if I ask you as my brothers and sisters who are here, I ask you what Kibaki told anyone in the year 2008 when he was president. You would hardly remember. You'd have to go to your files to check what Kibaki said. But if you travel through or on Thika Road Superhighway, you don't need to remember anything Kibaki said. You see it with your own eyes. So me, I believe that, yes, we have to talk as leaders because you have to explain where you are going, where you've come from. I mean, you cannot lock yourself in a room. You have to talk. But in many instances, I find that what is far-reaching and what is permanent and what is objective is more what you do than what you say. And therefore, in terms of what was said and whoever said it last week in Parliament, I would not be provoked to answer evil with evil, neither will I be provoked to answer an insult with insult. Time answers many things. Time answers so many things. I mean, if I allege, for example, if I come here and allege Kajim here is actually not from Kenya, and I say, no, I have evidence, he's actually not from Kenya. Only time. He may not need to say much. The truth and the facts have a way of outliving words. And I hold no grudge against them. It is too burdensome to carry any hatred. It is too heavy to carry any ill will against anyone. I mean, you can only do that to the advantage of the people who calculate to make you wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Aden. And I think I'm taking it wrong. Allow me to say, university is great the government. You know, I've been chairman of finance. Definitely, I am likely to be supported. In terms of rating of government, allow me not to answer that now because I just rated this position very a week from today. I am likely to be subjected, but I think as leaders from wherever we are, from MCA level to what I hold, every other level, there is always work to be done. And from my corner, hopefully I'll do my best to chip in into that development so that entirely the country becomes better. But I also know, Adam, that, you know, like all of you, I am a Kenyan, I live here, so I see what there is. So, so Kenyans are better judges than ourselves.
Mheshimiwa, the last one is, what's your take on the coalition agreement? My name is Jeff from Live Nation 254. Jeff Kizila, Live Nation 254. What's your take on the agreement between the opposition, Raila Odinga, and the president? Will this agreement solve the issue of Gen Zs? Because the other time Gen Zs went to the streets and they wanted some support from the government. Will this help? Will this agreement help the Gen Zs?
Jeff, I think, but respectively, yes. Those are the areas that I don't want to go to because I don't want to distort the message for today. Since I'm around,
yeah.
Jeff,
yeah.
I'll give you. You know now I'm not as busy as
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Maybe the last one on budget. Given the role you played in the last election, I am from Tuko. Given the role you played in the last election, resulted in you being given that position. Now that you have been removed without even being informed by the leadership of Kenya Kwanza, you feel betrayed by the leadership.
Thank you very much, Ayamba. You asked is our discussion because it's good political but budget. So that one I have to say something about.